What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 56 of the Half Price Concessions podcast. This week's episode is the full 2021 season preview for Formula One, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, World of Outlaws Sprint Cars, and World of Outlaws Late Models with myself, Tyler Williams, and the co-host for this podcast, Mr. Buddy Payne. Sit back on the other side of these messages. We're jumping right into it. Short intro this week because it's a long episode. I hope you guys enjoy it of the Half Price Concessions podcast.
When you're eating breakfast, you don't think twice about hitting an electric line in your cereal. If you're looking through your dresser, does damaging a fiber optic line cross your mind? Of course not, because those utilities are buried underground. So don't think twice about calling 811 before digging. 811 is a free service, takes as little as 5 minutes, protects you and your neighborhood, and it's the law. So call or click 811 today. This safety message brought to you by North Carolina 811.
This episode of the Half Price Concessions podcast is brought to you with support from Performance Center Racing Warehouse. In addition to being the home of the PRW chassis, Performance Center offers in-house setups and consulting, plus suspension and chassis pull-down analysis, along with their fabrication shop that can reclip your race car with the fastest turnaround in the industry. Give Roger Johnson and the Performance Center team the chance to earn your racing business by calling them today at 704-838-1400 or visit them online at performancecenter.com. That's PERFORMANCENTER.com. Back on the Half Price Concessions podcast once again, back with Buddy Payne. And, you know, Buddy, it's funny because we're doing a 2021 preview show, if you will, but a lot of these series that we're talking about tonight have actually, by the time this gets posted on Monday, I think all but one of them have already technically started their season. So what off season? There apparently is none anymore, especially in these three dirt series.
It's a year-round gig, yeah, especially for the dirt stuff. It's crazy.
I think, and you know what, honestly, I think a lot of it has come about just because of something we talked about on one of our previous episodes, just about how much streaming and all that stuff's out there. There's more online video demand for a lot of these forms of racing we're going to talk about than there's ever been. So you almost have to have year-round content for a lot of these services.
Yeah, to justify the monthly payment, which a majority of them now, you just pay one set fee, and that covers you for the whole year. So, you know, those November, December, January months, you got to have some kind of content to give to the people. So, you know, they'll throw a $4,000 or $5,000 to win race out somewhere. Somebody's going to show up for it.
And you never find out how much your significant other is tired of racing until nowadays, because when MAV TV Plus on the Facebook page had the races going, I think we had watched 2 or 3 of them, and they weren't even at East Bay yet. They were still at Alltech, or they had just gotten to East Bay. And I think by Tuesday or Wednesday, Allison was like, "Are they racing again?" I'm like, "Yeah, honey, we ain't even halfway through speed weeks."
I'm to the point now. Heather's like, "There's a race tonight." I was like, "There's always a race tonight, dear. We'll find something going around the circles to watch tonight."
Absolutely. So what we're going to do on this episode, kind of like last year, we're going to preview the 4 major series that we're paying attention to this season. Last year we did 6. This year we're doing 4, but I'm sure we'll throw in some other things as well. But the 4 big ones to us: Formula One, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, and the World of Outlaw Late Models. And, you know, it's pretty crazy. You know, Formula One's the only one that hasn't really gotten going yet. And even that, with all the rule changes and stuff that's been coming into it, just over the off season for it as we lead into it as our first category, it's been wild to pay attention. Never has anyone seen on Formula One message boards or on news sites moves being made because of spending restrictions. You know, this is it's such a new it's such a new era in Formula One. It's, you know, it's the most expensive form of motorsports there is. It's still taking me a little time to get used to. Oh wait, yeah, they're not allowed to spend as much money.
Yeah, this off season's been a big one for Formula One. You've probably the most driver and team changes that I can recall in quite some time. Got a pretty interesting rookie class coming in. Got some old veterans like Alonso coming back. Got some new teams, new manufacturers, engine changes. It has been a big newsworthy offseason for Formula One.
I know a lot of name changes. I got to get used to saying Alpine.
Yeah.
You know, not used to saying that one for Renault, and some of the other ones, and like you
Aston
said,
Martin,
yeah, the Aston Martin one. So it's wild to think, and I think before we get into our Formula One picks, we're going to pick a champion, a rookie of the year, a dark horse, a bold prediction, and a driver that'll take a step back. I think Formula One had the hardest time last year keeping guys on the track because there's only 20 of them, and I think they had 4 or 5 guys that at one point got COVID or got exposed or something and had to get pulled out. And it's like, it's not like any of these other series where there's 30 or 40 or 50 of them out there. I mean, there's only 20.
Yeah, and Formula One, you always have a reserve driver. Most of the time, most of these programs, they have it's like a development program or whatnot. So they'll have like a driver like in the reserve in case something were to happen like that. So you got to see a lot of names that either you hadn't seen in a long time or never heard of. You know, maybe an F2 and F3 guy get a chance, you know, to make some laps. But big just shout out, kudos to them for the adjusting on the fly with their schedule. You know, it's one thing like for the dirt stuff we saw last year. You know, you can throw a piecemeal schedule together, fairly simple. You know, with as many dirt tracks as there are, but you're in the continental United States. They're all over the world. So to be able to have every other weekend a race going on, some double headers and stuff. It was enjoyable, and we got to see a lot of tracks that they hadn't been to in forever too. That was a lot of fun. At
a time when traveling was just a huge bugaboo. I mean, no sport travels more than Formula One.
Absolutely, yeah.
So looking ahead to 2021 Formula One. Maybe we ought to save the champion for last.
Okay.
Because then again, in Formula One, I got a feeling we got the same guy. So maybe we'll take a look. Let's go Rookie of the Year first for Formula One. Okay. We'll let you lead this one off. Who'd you have?
This is an interesting rookie class. So of the rookies, you got Mick Schumacher. Of course, everyone knows that last name. Nikita Mazepin, I'm going to guess on that one. And then Yuki Tsunoda. Those are the 3 dedicated rookies right now. My heart wants to go with Schumacher, just because of the name, but he probably experienced. He's probably got the most experience. He was an F3 champion. He was an F2 champion. Last year in F2, he finished in the points in every race. So he understands that championship mentality and having to finish and making the most out of the car. He struggles really with qualifying, but he races well. And that's okay on the lower circuits, but F1, as we've seen, track position and qualifying is everything. It's key.
It's hard to pass.
It's very hard to pass, and hopefully we see a change with that. Nikita Mazepin, I'm just going to go ahead and count him out because he has the least amount of experience, and he's driving for Haas, one of the bottom-tier teams. So my Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Yuki Tsunoda, primarily based off of he's going to be in the best equipment. And if anything last year especially taught us is equipment means everything. You saw what George Russell did in Lewis Hamilton's car. Goes from a bottom feeder to darn near winning the race. So being in the AlphaTauri, I think is really going to benefit him. He does not have a lot of experience. He only spent 1 year in Formula 2. He did finish third in the points. But in that year, it was like hot or cold. 3 wins, 4 poles, and then he finished outside the points in 6 races. So I think the inconsistency is going to bite him, and he's going to. It's a big learning curve, for all these guys. But just being in better equipment, he qualifies better, and I think he's going to have a lot to prove. And this is a guy who's very hard on himself. We all say we're our biggest critic, but I mean he's proven it. So I think that drive and just being in that good of a car, I think that's going to propel him to Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, well, I don't think you could have gone wrong with either one, but I did end up going with Schumacher, and I think I just fell for the. It's too good of a story. It's just so cool to see that name back in, and especially I think what amplifies the story is just what happened to his dad. And I mean, it's not like he's. He just retired and rode off into the sunset. I mean, he probably shouldn't be here, honestly, with the accident that he had. But just so cool to see him, and I'm hoping selfishly, as an American, that maybe his presence, coupled with some performance improvement, can be what kind of puts a little more gas in the tank for Haas, because last year was just absolutely awful for him. Just terrible year. So I'm hoping Mick Schumacher gets it, and I'm hoping that is enough to kind of give him a little bit of a boost.
That's a big swing for Haas because, to get rid of both guys and to bring in 2 rookies, that this is a big swing for them. So I hate to say a make or break year for the team, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on both these rookies to perform so that team still has some life in it going into 2022.
Absolutely. For the dark horse for Formula One, I actually ended up going with a team instead of necessarily a driver, and going with Williams. And not, they got a great last name. I think that's a strong, solid name. But I just, Williams has been the bottom of the barrel for the last couple of years. Anyone that watched the Netflix series, anyone with a pair of eyeballs could see they were just off, and they were off in a bad way. They've got new ownership in place. They've got a new CEO, and here recently they announced Jensen Button was coming on board as a senior advisor. And honestly, they couldn't get much slower than they were. So it was like any improvement is going to be is going to be pretty noticeable. So I just feel like even if they only get 5 or 6 points, that'll be way better than where they were, where it looked like they flat out didn't belong. So I'm picking Williams as my dark horse because any improvement will be an improvement.
Well, they've had some personnel changes higher up, and I think getting some fresh blood, fresh set of eyes on some things will help them out. And I really think the short success that George Russell had with the Mercedes stuff last year, I think that's a real driving force because he knows now I can drive as good as these guys. I just got to get the equipment to match. So I hope to see him make a swing. My dark horse, and really I'm going dark horse for a championship contender is going to be Max Verstappen, which is, I guess you can say it's an easy pick, but we've just seen a level of consistency over the last 3 years especially. Last year he finishes 3rd in points, 2 wins, 11 podiums. The consistency's there, and he was only 8 points out of 2nd. So I think he's right on that cusp. Mercedes is the clear top dog and has been for some time, but a non-Mercedes driver that really has a legit shot, I think you can't go anywhere else but Verstappen.
Bold prediction for 2021, Bud. What are you seeing as something bold coming?
I am going a little bit slight.
Please don't say Lewis Hamilton to win the championship. That's
how bold that would be. No, I'm going slight homer here, but I'm going to say McLaren will finish 3rd in the Constructors' Championship.
Okay.
So, Mercedes, Red Bull is obviously the top 1-2. McLaren, they were right in the thick of that mid-pack battles last year. Some of the best racing we've seen. Unfortunately, wasn't for the lead most of the time, but that 5 through 12 races last year were just very entertaining. But I think they take that next step this year because they are switching back to the Mercedes engines. So theoretically, you're going to have the same engines as the top guys there. And I'm really excited for that driver pair, Daniel Ricciardo, who I pull for, switching over to McLaren. But him and Lando Norris, I think that is just a phenomenal duo. These are guys that they don't take it too seriously. They laugh. They can make fun of each other and they keep it light. And sometimes that is what's needed to take that next step. Because these guys who get so focused on it, so hardcore about it, and it just consumes them, they can't break that mentality. Whereas if you're kind of a little more loose around the edges, having fun with it, we see more success sometimes. But I'm excited for that.
That'd be a pretty good one. I'm predicting a Red Bull driver, and you know what? I'll just name him specifically. Max Verstappen will run 2nd in the points to eventual champion Lewis Hamilton, and going a step further, will be within 100 points. And obviously Lewis is out front by plenty, and his car is out front by plenty with Mercedes. But I like Max Verstappen is just an absolute bulldog, and I know Red Bull is doing everything they can already to try to beat Mercedes. But when you've got a guy in the seat that if it was, I feel like if it was straight up equipment, like same thing head to head with Hamilton, I'd say I'm probably splitting. If they did a 10-race thing, I could see him splitting. I believe in Max Verstappen's talent that much, and he's just got like you always talk about, that killer instinct of, I'm going to go get this now. I'm not going to go let this guy win a battle and then I'll get the next one. Like, no, I'm getting this one now. So I'm very confident. I don't think he'll win the championship, but I do see him. I think he'll break that Mercedes kind of blockade at the top.
I'm curious how the teammate change is going to affect his drive and push. When Ricardo was there, Ricardo was the number one driver, but Max felt like he should have been. And so he pushed it a lot to try to prove himself, and it cost him in most cases.
They wrecked each other that one race.
Oh, yeah. He tore up a bunch of equipment that way. And then when they brought Albon in, he was a clear number one. Albon, they brought him in way too early, in my opinion, and the results really show.
Yeah, they couldn't get Pierre Gasly out of that seat fast enough.
Exactly. And then turn around, now Albon's out of the seat, so you got Sergio Perez coming in there, who has proven himself, with Racing Point. So now having, a higher quality teammate, I'm curious how that's going to, is that going to be more of a drive, more of a push for him, to get him to that next level, or will he kind of overthink some stuff and screw up more?
It's going to be interesting to see. It's the teammate dynamic is so funky in Formula One. Like if people watch NASCAR, they might see teammates draft at Daytona or Talladega or something. Formula One, it's I almost wish they didn't have teammates. At least you be honest about it.
Well, like you said, there's only 20 seats. Yeah. So these guys, they got to prove themselves.
Yeah. Driver to take a step back. This one might sound a little funny, but Nikita Mazepin, the other rookie for Haas, and I know it's hard to take a step back when you're a rookie, but he's been getting hounded going into the season for stuff that's off the track, that's not performance, controlled or whatever. He had that video that popped out or whatever of some behavior that was not very Baptist-like, and then he's driving for a team in need of a bounce back. Like you said, they got rid of their two guys last year. It seems like from what I've read from the insiders, it was really a move that was made for financial reasons. Maybe I think his dad's like a Russian billionaire or something. They needed to bring some money in, so maybe that was part of why he came in. But it's just got there's a lot of smoke around him that's not good. Yeah. And I'm just like, maybe he'll come out and succeed and hush all this up. I hope he does for his own sake, but I don't see anything good right there. Yeah. And all the attention's going to be on Schumacher because he's got the famous last name and the pedigree.
I see a little Johnny Manziel in him.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I see that.
It's
too much smoke for there not to be a fire.
That's right. The step back. This is a tough one for me. It's kind of bouncing between two names. Initially, I was going to say Sebastian Vettel because he is going to a different team. But really, last year was his step back year.
Oh, yeah.
And some of that's car, and some of that was just him just underperforming. But I'm going to go with Bottas. I'm going to go with Valtteri Bottas. He's a clear number 2 at Mercedes and, finishes in second in points. And he's taken that role of being second fiddle, and he's fine with it. And he has success. He'll scratch off a pole or two, might get a win here or there, but
he doesn't mind being the understudy. Whereas Nico Rosberg clearly, he was not going to fill.
Yeah,
that
not
role.
going to have it, and that's got to take a toll on you as a competitor at some point. You can't. There's no true racer who out there will say I'm okay with finishing second. No. And this has been going on for several years now, and I think this is a year we kind of see it at a breaking point to where it's going to be I'm here to prove myself or forget it kind of thing. And he takes that step back, and on top of I really think Max is going to take a step up into that second spot. So somebody's got to go down.
And of course, the 2021 champion of Formula One. Let's say his name together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lewis Hamilton. Yes. He will stop being the champion when he says he's done. Right. And now he's tied with Schumacher. He's got the win total. Now it's just about pouring the gravy on. And,
that's right.
He's still. There's no issue about his age. There's no issue about his equipment. They got these spinning restrictions and stuff in now, but man, when you're that far out in front as far as compared to the competition, it's still going to take a while for these guys to catch up to the point where they pass him.
Yeah, he's the clear number 1, and It's kind of like, the Tom Brady thing. Like, you've already proven all this. Why are you still here? Like, what is there left to prove? And I think, really the only record left for him to break is the most championships. He's tied. So I think that's going to be his big push this year, to be that clear all-time great for all categories, leading all categories. And a motivated Lewis Hamilton's a scary Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, I almost hate to say this, because obviously we don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I feel like that would probably be the only way people would catch up to him, is if he had to get pulled out of the seat. Last year he did because of the COVID, but he already had the championship locked up. I feel like that would be the only way someone would beat him, is if something takes him out of the seat, whether it's COVID, sickness, injury, whatever. I feel like that's the only way.
Well,
because he's not going to make the mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And listening to some of his interviews and stuff, I don't think the passion is there like it used to be.
Oh.
I think he's driven. Obviously he's driven to win this championship. But as far as him racing, another 5-10 years, I think I say within 5 years we see him retire easily. Because it's too, like, he's at the age to where I don't need to race anymore. Yeah. And I think slowly that's coming around. He's going to drive, get this last championship, and he'll probably be done within the next 3 to 5 years.
It'd be interesting to see. We'll have to circle back here in a few years.
Yeah.
Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. We go from the cream of the crop and the yacht riding in Monte Carlo down to the good old boys running.
Down to Cherokee.
Yeah, down to
with no soap in the bathroom.
The Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. And now we get a little more parity. Rookie of the Year, Lucas Oil. This one is a tough one, but I have the weird feeling we have the same guy, and I'll kick us off on this one. I had to go RTJ. And these other guys that are going for the rookie title are good, no doubt. Kyle Strickler, and I forget what was. There's a third one out there.
John Baker.
That's what it is, John Baker. Both very talented guys, but I just see RTJ on a higher level. I see him on a more consistent level. He's already gotten his win on the Lucas Oil Tour. He was really good out in Arizona, and I think over the course of the season, he's going to be the one that's the most consistent over the haul, because it's a long season. It's a lot of travel, and you got to be able to, fix stuff, and you got to be able to get back out there and salvage something, even when you just suck and you're just not good at racetrack A. And I feel like Ricky's going to do the best job of that. He's my Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I agree. I think this will be probably one of the closest Lucas Oil rookie battles probably ever that we've seen. Between RTJ and Strickler. Baker, I doubt very seriously he finishes out the year. He's a young kid, 16, 17 years old. Some regional success, but that's about it. I don't see that panning out too much. The big thing that I give RTJ just a slight edge on is he has done more traveling than Strickler. Now, I know Strickler traveled a lot with the modified stuff, but RTJ has a little more late model experience, a little more traveling experience, and we've seen him win like some pretty big races. Now, heartbreak city for Strickler last year at Eldora, closest that he comes to winning one. But, RTJ's already won, the Pittsburgher. He's already has one win already this year. The new team, sometimes it takes a while to gel, but, so far so good. It seems pretty fluid right now. Strickler, of course, as of today, he switches back to his, the Longhorn chassis, but I really thought the Rockets would have been a tough adjustment for him. But I'm excited to watch this one play out, man. I think it's going to be fun. They're both hard-nosed drivers. A lot more take than give in certain scenarios, as we've seen already this year. But this is going to be a fun one, but I think Thornton comes away with it.
Who's your dark horse?
Dark horse, and this was actually a very big surprise announcement, but my dark horse is going to be Mikey Marler.
Okay.
Making the announcement he's going to follow the tour. Didn't really see that one coming. He did the World Outlaw deal 2-3 years ago, and obviously had success on that. Did not see him ever really following a tour again. He was kind of wanting to do more of a true outlaw schedule. He ran some paved races, did some asphalt super late models and some modified stuff there. But the fact that he's signing up, I don't see him as one that will commit to something and then step back from it. So if he stays with it the whole year, like I think he will, I mean, the guy's, a proven winner. He's won Knoxville. He's won all these big races. He's toured before. He knows his stuff, and he's a heck of a driver. So I think he's going to be a dark horse to make some noise. If he stays on, I say top 5 in points for sure.
I don't know who was more glad to leave East Bay, him or Brian Shirley. Yeah. I think they were both. Every interview they gave was basically like, "Man, can we get out of here?"
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I agree with you. He's going to be good over the course of that season. He's shown that he can go to these different racetracks and put it in the ballpark where he's not out there getting lapped.
Right.
He's going to be a tough one. I actually went Hudson O'Neal, and dark horse just because last year was just a train wreck for him. That Masters Built House car did not work out. Seemed like just nothing went right for him. He's come out of the box this year with the Double L Motorsports team, replacing Shannon Buckingham. He's already gotten a win, which is incredibly important for a new pairing to go ahead and get some success. I think he's in the Longhorns. I think so. He's in equipment that he knows, and I think there's still some improvement, I think, to come in how he does over the course of a season. But I think, I love his talent. I like the way he drives. Super aggressive, young kid. I just now that he's had that some success and some consistency early on, I think it's just going to carry over into the season. I think he's not going to win the championship, but I think he's going to be higher up than people think.
Yeah, I can see that. I definitely peg him for multiple wins. Kind of surprised to see him come out of the gates as strong as he did. Buckingham had okay success on the tour, but Hudson has that travel experience. He's been on tour for a little bit. Obviously, being around his dad, the old Don O'Neill there. So I can see him being a contender quite frequently.
Bold prediction. I have Tyler Erb being fined more than any other. No, I'm just kidding. Tyler,
he's already eclipsed that.
Tyler probably will be the most fined or suspended driver on the tour. He is the bad boy, but for real, on a bold prediction, I had Tyler Erb will be the highest finishing rocket chassis on the tour, and I think I don't condone bad behavior by anybody, but it's been a while since I've seen somebody that has as much fire burning in their belly as Tyler Erb does, and he don't put no damper on it for nobody. It is out there. Whether you love him or hate him, you're going to watch him, and he's going to probably entertain you, or he's going to give you fodder to make him hate you more. But I mean, the talent is there. If he can just keep the race car off the wall and keep from destroying it and giving his crew chief Randall Edwards migraine headaches, I think he's definitely a championship contender if he can do that. But I do see him being highest finishing rocket chassis on the Lucas Oil Tour.
I like it. I don't pull for him or pull against him, but one thing I love about him is that he embraces that heel, wrestling heel kind of persona. Like, he doesn't care. And it drives him, man. Like, he's not apologetic. He's not. We see it so much in sports today. Like, when a person does something or says something, the next day they issue an apology, and it's always this, scripted junk. Like, next day, no, I meant what I said, and I'm coming back tonight to win.
Yep.
And I mean, we saw that at East Bay. Gets DQ'd. In my opinion, shouldn't have been DQ'd, but gets DQ'd, and then the next night comes out and wins.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no bigger bird he could have flipped in the face.
I was about to say,
than,
double fingers in the air. Yeah, okay.
Bang.
Yeah, y'all watch this. I love it. My bold prediction, and this is, I'm going to combo this with taking a step back, is Jimmy Owens nor Jonathan Davenport or Jimmy Owens will finish in the top 3 in points.
Oh.
And okay. Owens last year had a phenomenal 3/4 of a year. The last, kind of little stretch there, had some struggles, but, as we alluded to before, when you're that far ahead now, you can kind of try some things, push the envelope a little bit, test, if you will, because it doesn't really matter. And, Davenport, again, we talked about this on the previous episode, a down year for him, a great year for anyone else, but a down year for him last year, and kind of struggling. I mean, he had some success out in Arizona, won, 2 or 3 races out there. But so far, Speed Weeks has not been very kind to him. He's had, I think, 2 maybe top 5s, finished second at East Bay. was leading that, Bubba, when he had the issue. So Davenport, switching to the Bilstein shocks, basically him and T-Mac are on the same kind of setup right now.
I feel like everybody on the Longhorns is on Bilsteins.
Yeah.
Because T-Mac started it. Now Davenport's on it. And as you said, with Strickler going to the Longhorns, he said part of his reason was because he was trying to run the Bilsteins on the Rocket, and he said that the Rockets were working better with the Integras. It's kind of funny how now it's lining up where if you're going to run this chassis, you need to run these shocks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that, but it's kind of where they're at apparently.
Yeah, I'm guessing like your top teams, whatever they're running, it's just a funnel down effect really off of that, because that's where most of your R&D is coming from. And another big, Jimmy Owens, had the good year last year, but I think what's really going to affect him this year is losing Cody Mallory. Cody Mallory has been behind a lot of championship teams. So him dropping off and actually joining Bobby Pierce, of all things, I think that's going to affect him. And, Davenport, I don't know, man. I think that's just seeing interviews and stuff, I think it's a mental thing for him a little bit right now, because he had such high success. And kind of when he was, making his debut into touring, to come out and the phenomenal 2015 and 2016, I don't know if that's just the standard that he set for himself or what, but you can just kind of see it and hear it in his voice. I think it's a little bit of a mental game going on right now for him.
It's hard to have the good birthday cake and then go back to eating carrot cake. Once you've had the good stuff, it's hard to go back to the cruddy stuff. My driver to take a step back, piggybacks on yours. Jimmy Owens will finish 5th or worse, probably worse in points. And I kind of was thinking along the same lines as you with losing Cody Mallory, and obviously he's replaced him, and they said something about that at one of the races. But I almost akin it to any driver, no matter how great, when you lose someone that is that integral, no matter who you replace them with, there's going to be some kind of change. It's like Richard Petty was an incredible race car driver, won 200 races, but you took Dale Inman away from being his crew chief. There's a drop-off. There's a change. And
Jimmy Johnson and Shaq and Nels.
Yeah, there's always going to be, I think Dale Earnhardt was one of the ones that got away with it because he rotated a few of them in there. But you don't just drop that person, and you can't always cleanly replace him. So I think Jimmy takes a step back, and he's been – talk about Davenport being slow out of the gate. Owens ain't been much better. Owens has been just looking off the pace. Not that he starts fast anyway, but it's going to take something drastic for me to be like, oh, okay, wait, Jimmy's going to be fine. Like, I don't feel too good about him right now.
I think he's going to be more like that 2018-19 Jimmy, to where he's in some races. He's going to win some races because he's Jimmy Owens. He's going to be there, but he's not going to be that clear favorite. So, I think that the top 10s will still be there. A couple wins will still be there. But that consistency, making the most out of the car every night, I don't see it happening.
Champion for 2021, Lucas Oil. Buddy, who do you have?
I'm going with Sir Tim McCready.
Dang, we picked the same one again.
I'm going with Sir Tim McCready. I think he had a very solid year last year, but, Jimmy Owens just had a phenomenal year. Of the contender, like legit contenders, he's started off the best, and this really hasn't been that great of a start. But he started off the best. He's currently 4th in points, and then you're going to have guys. More than likely Overton's not going to follow. B. Shepard's going to drop off, so he's going to be pole vaulted in the top 3 automatically. But last year, I mean, it was a great year for him. 11 wins, 31 top 5s, 50 top 10s. New team last year, so you already got that year under your belt. You got great sponsors. The Bilstein deal is working out great for him. And he's Tim McCready. I mean, he's just Mr. Consistency, and it doesn't really matter the track, big, small, surface, or whatever. He's been doing it so long. He's got that veteran status now. I think he's going to be the one to beat.
I think so, too. And I'm not going to lie. I got a little nervous at East Bay because early on when everybody was out in left field trying to figure out what to do, T-Mac was off the pace. He wasn't running good. But as the week progressed, you could tell they were getting it figured out. And he's not happy with I think he said in one of his interviews, he's not happy running 4th or 5th, but at least they were getting it improved, where there were some guys who would hit it one night and then they'd be like, well, where'd so-and-so go? He didn't even make the A-main. So a sign of improvement at a racetrack that threw everybody a knuckleball. He found a way to get better as the week went on. That gives me the confidence. And pair that with how he did last year, and Jimmy Owens dropping off, T-Mac fills it and becomes there's not many of them that have won both tours, I don't think. Josh Richards and I can't Scott Bloomquist. There's not a whole lot of guys that have won both national tours. He could be that guy.
Yeah, that's a very elite group. Yeah.
So now we go over to World Racing Group, World of Outlaws Sprint Cars, who we're actually watching right now on Dirt Vision while we record this on Friday night.
Thank God Dirt Vision finally has a Roku app. Only took them 4 years.
Yeah, I was about to say we're out of the Stone Age. But World of Outlaws Nice Energy Drink Sprint Cars starting off at Volusia. Pretty cool that even before we get to some of our predictions, it was cool to see some of the new tracks they've thrown in there. I'm really looking forward to seeing that Talladega short track race.
Yeah.
That's going to be a cool one.
Yeah. I've seen, obviously, we've watched late model races there, and the black ice. That's going to be interesting to see them being able to manhandle 410 sprint cars. That's not your atypical bull ring. I mean, it's a small little track. No walls, good amount of banking, but it's not your typical build up a cushion, rip it kind of that like a lot of these guys are used to out in the Midwest. So that one's going to be fun.
Rookie of the Year, World of Outlaws. This one almost as highly contentious as the Lucas Oil deal. Who did you have for Rookie of the Year this year?
Man, this has got to be the best Rookie of the Year class we have seen. Not just in the Outlaw sprints, but just across the board, man. This is you got 4 like legit guys here. How many Rookie of the Year classes have you seen where all the rookies already have a win on the tour?
Almost never.
That's just crazy.
It's usually a bunch of guys that you're like, well, we'll see if they make some A-mains.
Yeah,
these
exactly.
guys are proven.
Yeah. This is awesome. So, our drivers, we've got Aaron Reitzel, Brock Zierfoss, Parker Price Miller, and recently announced James McFadden. My Rookie of the Year choice is going to be Aaron Reitzel. Between the 4 of them, man, and the only reason I picked him over James McFadden is an Australian driver, if any of the listeners didn't know, and he's in Australia now. And
he's stuck over there.
He's stuck over there. So travel restrictions, he's not going to be able to run Volusia. Casey Kane's going to be running for him, but the Outlaws are giving them show-up points. So, if some of these guys have some good nights, that you're already starting in a pretty big hole. Right there, and there's a good possibility these guys, his competitors here are going to have a good night. But to be in the same equipment as your previous champion, Brad Sweet, Casey Kane backing you, and the dude's established. I mean, my goodness, he's won everything there is to win in Australia, and he's done good over here as well. He would have been my pick outside of not being on the race now, but Aaron Reitzel, I mean, 3 All-Star Circuit of Championships in a row. He's used to some travel. The biggest hurdle for him is going to be the switch to Roth Motorsports, not in his equipment that he's accustomed to. But to win 3 championships, I don't care what tour you're on, that's a mindset that you develop. He knows how to win. He knows how to win at different tracks. He knows how to travel. Zierfoss, he's in that family-owned car. He does have some outlaw success. One at Williams Grove. He was a track champion at Port Royal, which is saying a lot. Because that's a who's who goes there. But, at Parker Price, Miller, he's already got a couple wins, but both those guys being on their own equipment, especially Parker Price, that's starting that team from scratch. You start a team from scratch, you try to tackle a 90-race tour, good luck to you, buddy.
That's a lot
going on. So, Aaron Reitzel, your Rookie of the Year.
I'm in the same vein as you. I do pick Reitzel. I do think the Roth ride is going to improve this year, and the only reason I say that, I don't study the sprint car rumor mill as much as maybe the late model one, but I heard something in his interview when the All-Stars ran at Screven, and he was talking about that he actually maybe brought over 1 or 2 of his guys that had been with him when he ran All-Stars with him to the Roth deal, however that works. So maybe doing that, not just a new driver, but new driver with some familiar crew members that he's familiar with, not the team. Maybe that will help improve performance because Darren Pittman, no question on Darren Pittman's talent, and Darren Pittman was having struggles in that car. Yeah. That's what I think has gave us all concerns about that ride, but I think with him having his guys, it'll be better. But I'm like you. It will be – last year the what if was, well, what if David Gravel had not ran the truck races and missed races? This year it'll be, well, what if James McFadden hadn't got stuck in Australia because of COVID restrictions on travel? Yeah. Because I think he will outperform Brock Zierfoss. He'll outperform Parker Price Miller. I think him and Reitzel will be tick for tack. and we'll just look back and go, man, what if? And at least he's getting the show up points, but it'll be like, oh.
Yeah. I definitely see him finishing second in the Rookie of the Year points easily.
Oh, yeah, bar none. None against those two guys, but, I mean, like you said, McFadden is, I mean, what a driver.
And with a beard.
Oh, yes. Yes. You cannot discount the beard. Dark horse pick, I actually ended up going Carson Macedo on this, and just because he's already come out of the gate fast. He was with Kyle Larson for 2 years. I think he knew when everything went down with Kyle and it became apparent he was going to lose his NASCAR ride, and it wasn't quite sure. I think somewhere in his head he probably knew, I need to find a ride for next year because this guy's probably taking a pay cut at the top and my team's not going to be around. So I'm glad he was able to – that Jason Johnson ride was probably the best ride that was open. He's in it. He knows those guys. Philip Dietz has got what sounds like more control of the team as far as more decision-making. Bobby's kind of stepping back a little bit. So you got a team that's funded because they got sponsors. You got a guy calling the shots in Dietz that knows what the heck he's doing and has known, and a driver who's, I think, third year on tour now. So he's gotten all the rookie stuff out of the way. I don't think he'll win the championship, but Carson Macedo definitely going to be in that top four for me.
All right, that's a good pick. My dark horse is going to be David Gravel. Switching to big game motorsports this year, and like you alluded to before, if not for the truck stuff, he would have been second in points last year, right on Sweet's heel. But Gravel's one of those guys, man. He's definitely a something to prove kind of guy. We've seen that with the Jason Johnson deal and leaving CJB beforehand. So I think Gravel, now that he is going to be full-time, but the truck stuff not really panning out. So hitting every race, obviously the talent's there. My goodness, what hasn't he won? And big game, they've done enough travel and they've done the tour stuff long enough to where it's not going. This isn't a rookie team. This isn't your atypical rookie team. So I think he's going to come out the gates. I think he's going to be not the champion, but I'll say definitely. I'll put him top three, probably third or so.
Okay, all right. What's your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, speaking of championship standings, that Donnie Schatz will not be in the top three. This year.
10-time is on the outside looking in.
He's on the outside looking in, and not a knock on Donnie. I mean, obviously he can still drive. Last year with the new Ford engine and all that stuff, had some struggles. Probably it was a bad year for him, and he finished third in points with 7 wins. So, but I think there's going to be some guys that pole vault him as far as they've called up, and then just the sheer talent is there, but the equipment is finally there. Donnie he's a great talent, but he had the best equipment forever. Now we've got good talent with good equipment, right there with him. But I think your man Sheldon's going to surpass him in the points, and then, like I said earlier, David Gravel will surpass him in the points. So Donnie's still going to have a good year, probably. I dare say double-digit wins. He's probably going to go on that stretch where he wins, 4, 5, 6 in a row. But I think these other guys are going to be right there with him.
The field is caught up to him.
Yep.
Well, my bold prediction is not as bold now that you've mentioned yours. The only thing I thought of was we already talked about Aaron Reitzel and James McFadden for the Rookie of the Year, but I'm actually going to put Parker Price Miller ahead of Brock Zierfoss as far as performing, and I have him winning at least one race, maybe 2.
Okay.
I love Parker's talent. Parker's a heck of a driver. Yes, he's going to learn a lot being I think he's really going to be the point man as far as the team goes, and that's not just driving the race car and driving the hauler. That's figuring out the hotels for the guys and the schedule and all this other stuff. But Brock Zierfoss might surprise me, but I just think Parker Price Miller is a little bit higher than Brock Zierfoss. I'll put him having more success. I think poor Brock's probably the bottom of that 4 rookie class barrel, which all 4 are good. So it's not a knock on him. I just think Parker is going to outperform him.
And he has the best nickname between all 4 of them too. So the law firm.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the law firm. Driver to take a step back, buddy.
I'm going to go counter to what you said earlier. I'm going to say Carson Macedo takes a step back. I know he has experience with Phil Dietz, and originally he was supposed to run a car for Phil Dietz before Gravel, decided to step out of the Jason Johnson ride. But I think Bacido, we saw it when him and Larson, especially when they were together, like racing at the same traction. Larson did a lot of dirt racing last year for the obvious reasons. But I think he's one who tries too hard to prove something, and it costs him a lot. And the fact that he was a Tour regular and Larson comes in and just waxing the field and stuff. Now, there's a talent difference there and all that kind of stuff, but you saw him overdriving. You saw him in contention to win heat races and screw up, or in contention for a top 5 and screw up. So I think he's coming out with a lot to prove this year, and I think the pressure is just going to be a little too much for him. And he had the success, in the Larson ride, but still probably in that 6, 7, 8 range in points. A good year probably will knock off a win or two, but I just don't think he's going to perform as well as we saw, Gravel in that car.
Okay. I'm glad we're disagreeing on some of these things, because that's going to make it more fun when we look back.
Yes.
Because if we're both wrong about the Formula One champ, it's like, oh, well, everybody's wrong.
If we're both wrong about the Formula One champ, then the good Lord came back.
This one, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curve on this one. Driver to take a step back in 2021 with the World of Outlaws. Kyle Larson.
Come on, man.
And I say
That's
that.
softball.
I know it's softball, but I think about it from this perspective. Look at, I think he was the winningest driver on tour last year.
Yeah.
Now he's not there. I think his old ride's been filled by Rico Abreu with the Paul Silva ride. And Kyle Larson I'm making it sound worse than it was. He hogged the spotlight and the attention so much, and decidedly so. It was an incredible season, maybe one of the greatest seasons, if not the greatest season of dirt racing in all time. Now he's gone. And not completely gone, but gone way more than he was. So now it's like, well, that's a lot of wins out there, and they're going to be more racing this year because a lot of more things are more opened up. They're not having to patch together the schedule as much as they did last year. There's going to be more opportunities for more guys to fill those holes. Who's going to do it? Yeah, that's a big gap. That would be like Jonathan Davenport having that 2015 season he had and then not showing up at all in 2016. I mean, I'll be very interested just to see. No one guy will fill the void. I don't think, but it will be interesting to see who fills those voids as far as the win totals and just I don't think anybody will get that much attention, but it'll be interesting to see. That's a big hole to fill.
It is, and with him being off as big of a year in the shortened season that we had last year, I think that's why you're going to see you'll see Sweet, Shots, maybe one other guy, but definitely those two. I think you're going to see that mid double-digit win total for them, that 15, 18 kind of range for both of them. Really, it's realistic for both of them to get to that point. But question for you on that, with across dirt racing as dominant as he was last year, how do you see that parlaying into the Cup stuff? Obviously, it's a completely different discipline, but just the success travels no matter what you're doing. How do you see that translating over into the Cup stuff next year? Or this year, excuse me.
I don't know. It's just such a different environment. Kenny Wallace pointed out, he made a real good observation one time about some race Kyle Larson won and it barely paid anything, whereas running last in a NASCAR race paid 8 times over what it was or whatever. So I don't knock Kyle for doing it, but I do think as far as the diehard goes, he's going to take a step back because, we talked about this last year. You had people, you would have never seen 3/4 of these people buying Kyle Larson shirts before everything happened to him and his situation happened and everything unfolded. And he, in a way, because he did show that he was human and he does make mistakes and whatnot, that endeared him to a lot of people. That fan base has been so jaded and put off and doesn't watch NASCAR no more. I don't think as many of them translate over as maybe there used to be.
Okay.
It used to translate for guys like Tony Stewart.
Sure. And
a little bit for Casey Kane, but maybe it's just where I'm sitting. I don't see hardly any crossover between the fan bases.
Okay.
I really don't. And thanks to all the streaming stuff, you can watch so much of it now. Like, I don't have to watch a Cup race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on Fox and NBC, and I can watch it for free with my antenna. But I can watch 100 and something sprint car races, and I don't have to watch it. I think it was a great story. We'll always remember Kyle Larson's 2020, but I just don't see it crossing over like maybe it did 10 years ago.
Okay. So
I blame NASCAR.
that's right. Oh, it's always NASCAR's fault. All right, so we're down to the champion.
I think we're going to disagree on this.
I guarantee we're going to disagree on this one.
Is it my turn to go first?
Go ahead.
Logan Schuchart. Don't tell me you're wearing his hat, Logan Schuchart. I'm telling you, I think Logan could have gotten it last year, but Logan had this probably not any fault of his own. But we've said it so many times on this tour, because it's so many races, your worst night has to be like 10th or 12th. Your worst night can't be a DNF. You can't afford DNFs on this tour when you're running against these level of guys. And Logan, unfortunately, had a lot of those nights, and that hurt him because Brad was just more consistent. I think he tidies that up. He can win. He's in contention to win almost any race he's in. I mean, there's nothing. I don't see anything holding him back. They got, that Dryden sponsorship is clearly pumping a lot of money. They're fielding 2 cars. I think it's finally time for Logan. I think he does it.
Okay. It's crazy that you say that. Like the sprint car schedule kind of reminds me of like these endurance, like these 24-hour races. We just saw the 24 hours at Daytona. Whereas like years past, your winner at Daytona, they're laps ahead of second place. And the last couple of years, it's been seconds, after 24 hours, and you're still got almost a photo finish. And these outlaw schedules, 90-some races for so long, we saw somebody have it wrap up with, 8, 9, 10 races to go, such a massive lead. And then, 2 years in a row, it's come down to Charlotte. It's come down to the final thing. So it's crazy to think, 90 races, I have a DNF, no big deal. Well, the level of competition is you can't afford that DNF, and it's crazy to think with that amount of races. But my champion is Logan Schuchart.
Wow, I did not. I thought you were going to go with Sweet. I really did.
That was probably the hardest champion for me to pick because I really think Brad Sweet is going to be the man to be. Obviously, he's the man to be. He's the 2-time defending champion, but I agree with you. Logan Schuchart has been on his heels, and we've seen him make a step up each year. He only was 46 points back after Charlotte, and going into Charlotte, he's right there. I think within 20-some. Second in points last year. This is how close it is. Last year he had 7 wins. Brad had 8. Last year he had 35 top fives. Brad had 37. So, those 3 races alone, man, could have done it.
That's a weekend.
Yeah. That's one weekend that'll cost you championship. And they're both 46 top 10s. So he is on that, like literally on that level. You gotta tighten up some of those bad nights or some of those tracks you don't necessarily perform as well at. If we can turn those 12th places into 7th places, you got yourself a champion.
Absolutely. So now over to the World of Outlaws late models, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, they started before anybody. They did that Sunshine Nationals at Volusia, so they were the first ones out of the gate. They didn't go all the way to New Mexico again, but I think they must get off on just having the first races. We beat Lucas Oil out of the gate. We got out here first.
And why in the world they scheduled that on top of the Wild West shootout? It's just, I still ain't forgiving them for that.
So, Rookie of the Year, World of Outlaws. This one I think is the trickiest one because I think we'll probably both agree. We're both not 100% sure who's going to last on this tour for the rookie battle. So I'm just going off of who was committed. And if we're wrong because they drop off, I don't think that holds again. I think we should get a mulligan.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Ross Bales.
Okay.
I'm gonna give the Clover, South Carolina native a chance. I got to work with Ross for a couple of years when he ran limited late models up here in the Carolinas. Seen him progress. He's in the Big Frog ride. I'm hoping he's got some good help to go with him on the road and stuff. But of the guys that were listed, I had a soft spot in my heart. I think Ross can get the job done. I don't think it's a talent problem. I think it will come down to, like you said, on a national tour, can you make your bad nights not suck?
Yeah.
And I think if he can just hang in there, I think he'll be fine. I think he can get it if he can make it the whole tour. That's the big question.
Yeah. Interesting rookie class this year. So Ross Bales, Ryan Gustin, Tony Jackson Jr., and Ryan Scott are your contenders. Of those four, I guess you could say Jackson's probably the most decorated between those four. As far as
I'm not
experience, I mean, it's close.
Not really convicted about that.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but we are going to agree on this one as well. I'm picking Ross to be Rookie of the Year. He has the most World Outlaws starts between the other guys, and this is just World Outlaws alone. But 25 starts, 13 top 10s in those 25 starts. 5 top 5s, and all of those top 5s came within the last 2 years. So, therefore the stat shows that he's progressing as the years go along. And he's the only rookie in this class with a win, a World Outlaw win, and that was at Cherokee in 2019. Ryan Gustin, he's a 2-time modified champ, USMTS. He's got a couple MLRA wins on the late model side of things. He's run some Hell Tour stuff, but he only has 7 World Outlaw starts. He's not accustomed to this kind of talent that you're running around. Tony Jackson, 5 straight Mars championships between 2013 and 2017, which I kind of liken that to like being a Carolina Clash or an Ultimate Champion.
Yeah, it's a regional tour.
It's a regional thing. If you show up, you're probably going to finish. Just show up to every race, you're probably going to finish top 5 anyway. But he has never run the World Outlaw race. I found that very, very surprising doing the research. He has 3 top 5s in Lucas Oil. I think one thing that will benefit him, he's getting a lot of help from Darryl Lanigan, a proven vet there, will help him out just with the road life and the adjustments and stuff. And then Ryan Scott, I think that's the one that kind of makes you scratch your head. He's attempted 20 World Outlaw races, and he's only made 4 features in his career. He's a Pennsylvania guy. He knows the Pennsylvania tracks, but that's about it. We haven't really seen him branch out too much. So, of the 4 contenders, I think Ross Bales, he's established himself, as you said, regional guy. He's branched out some. He's had some success, up at Eldora and whatnot. So, if he stays on the tour, that's going to be your Rookie of the Year.
That's definitely a big if for that one. Dark horse for World of Outlaws, bud. Who you got?
My dark horse is going to be Ricky Weiss, and to be a championship contender, which he has been, but I guess a dark horse to win a championship would be Ricky Weiss. Be a better way to put it. Doing his own chassis this year, which is very similar to the Bloomquist chassis, which he's accustomed to. But we saw 2019 Rookie of the Year, 3rd in points. Last year, 2nd in points. So clearly, he should step. Now's the time for him to step up to the top. Been on the tour long enough now; he understands the tour life. That's one guy that was a phenomenal regional driver and made the transition well. Straight on to the Outlaw stuff. So he's got a good team behind him. He's got great sponsors behind him with the Dryden stuff. Him being in control of everything on that chassis now, I think, is going to put him over, the bar that he set for himself last year.
We're going to disagree on this one. I'm going with your boy. No. I'm going with old Black Sunshine himself, Scott Bloomquist. And you know what? A lot of it's just a gut feeling for me, but it's going to come down to something that really only Scott knows. Is the hip and the leg and the health situation, is it 100% or not? And Scott, like any professional athlete or anybody in the public, can say whatever he wants to the public. And he did get that win in I think it was like Thunder Mountain.
Thunder Mountain. Yeah.
So I don't deny the talent, but if Scott can be just a little bit closer to 100%, he can get at least maybe 4 or 5 wins. But, he's a little older. The older body doesn't heal quite as fast as a 30-something-year-old body, so maybe he doesn't. But I'm banking on hopefully him being a little bit better, because I think if he can at least scratch out 5 wins and be somewhat improved, it's not only is it going to help his brand and help him sell some race cars, I think it's just going to be better for the tour, and it's going to be better for dirt racing in general.
Yeah.
You need people like on the Lucas Oil side. You might hate Turbo, but Turbo needs to be somewhere toward the front for it to be as compelling of a story.
Yeah.
World of Outlaws needs a guy like Scott Bloomquist to get up there, and he's probably not going to knock B-Shep off by any means, but at least be up there putting a little bit of pepper in there to add, to your scrambled eggs.
Absolutely. And I think what's going to be fun to see if he does come back to a more successful. I don't think I'm the biggest fan of Scott Bloomquist. I don't think we'll ever see him as the man to beat like he had been for so long. But if we at least see him competitive and challenging for those wins and top fives, I think it's going to be fun to see the crowd reaction, because he had that very kind of like Earnhardt feel to him. When they said his name, you either cheered or booed, but you weren't quiet. You either cheered or you booed. And now that his private story's been made so public with this, the injury and all the surgeries and just the pain, like he couldn't even get out of the car at a few of these races and stuff, I think some of those boos are going to turn into cheers just because it's a feel-good story at this point. He'll never be like a old man crowd favorite like Billy Moyer. No, nobody pull against Billy Moyer. He'll never be that guy, but I think that endearment is going to be there if he comes back successful.
Well, hey, not every old man is a crowd favorite, because I still do not like Sammy Swindell. I don't care. I don't care if he's 200 years old.
I don't think Jeff Swindell likes Sammy Swindell.
Slamming Sammy. Bless his heart. I mean, respect the talent.
Oh, yeah.
But, bold prediction. Now, this one is going to jump off your page a little bit.
Okay.
Kyle Strickler, who is supposed to be a Lucas Oil regular in 2021. I'm going to say Kyle Strickler wins more World of Outlaw races than he wins Lucas Oil races. He's already, I think, one up
he's
on that one.
Yeah.
I don't really know where I pulled that one out of. I think Kyle's going to be – I could see Kyle switching tours before I could see Ricky or the other guy on the Lucas Tour that running for Rookie of the Year. I could see Kyle maybe being like, let me just go over here and hit a few Outlaw shows if I'm not running top 20 or whatever. And we'll see how it plays out. But it was kind of hard to think of a bold prediction for World of Outlaws, because, I mean, with the exception for a couple of years, the same team's been winning the championship and been the most dominant car. So I went diving to try to find a bold prediction, brother. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, let me ask you this though. Yeah, that's a curious one. Depending on how he does at Volusia, could you see him making the switch that early? Because he did not have that great of a Lucas Oil start to this year. Their speed weeks are done. He's kind of buried in points. He's, if I'm not mistaken, leading the Outlaw points currently. He plans on running all the Volusia races. If he comes out of Volusia, say, top 3 in points, you see him making the switch already?
Well, he already talked his car owner into switching chassis. Maybe he can talk him into switching tours while he's at it. It'll depend. I think Volusia fits his driving style so much better than those 3 tracks that Lucas went to. So I could – you know what? If he wins 2 races at Volusia, I'd almost be like, man, you need to go run Outlaws. You're coming out of Florida with, if not the points lead, top 2. B-Shep's looking a little human to start the year. Maybe at least give it a shot.
And we just talked about the kind of lackluster Outlaw or the Rookie of the Year class there. Yeah. So
why not?
Yeah, I like it, man.
I think someone big will switch.
Okay.
Someone significant is going to switch. Is it Strickler or is it someone else? Who knows? Okay. Someone's going to switch.
I like it.
Bold prediction 2.
Yes, 2.0. My bold prediction, we'll just stay with the rookie talk here. I predict all rookies but one will drop off before the year's over with.
Wow.
And the only one that I think will stay on is Ross Bales. And the reason I say that is, as I spoke about before, just the lack of experience, the lack of that tour life, and the being accustomed to winning races on that regional level. If you're, B-maining it up with Brent Larson all the time or having to use these emergency provisionals, I think it's going to wear and tear on a lot of these guys, especially, some of the younger ones. But, Ryan Gustin, I think he's going to pull a Brian Shirley by the time Hell Tour comes around. If he's not remotely close in the points, he's probably going to drop off and go hit some quick, 5,000 win races that he's got a legit shot at. Jackson, I can kind of see the same thing, jump back on that regional deal where I know it can have success. And I really think it's just going to be a money thing for Ryan Scott, because I know he's got some backing right now, but every sponsor wants you to perform, and he's definitely the furthest one behind the 8 ball right now, and I think the backing more so than anything else with the lack of performance is going to push him off.
It ain't just the driver that needs to feel success. It's also the ownership of the team if it's not the driver and the sponsor. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's 2 tours out there. Go hop on the other one. Driver to take a step back, buddy. I know we're going to disagree on this one, so you go ahead with yours.
This is a tough one for me because it's been such a clear favorite on that tour for so long. It's Shepherd and everyone else. So this was a tough one for me to say, but I'm going to say Darrell Lanigan is going to take a step back. He's switching back to the Rocket, and I think there's a little bit of that, Bunton-Hamilton thing there, with B-Shep being the clear, Rocket house car guy, but Lanigan wanting that, kind of attention that, are you giving me the same stuff you're giving him? That kind of mentality, just because that's the kind of guy he is. And having his own stuff for so long and then now jumping back to the Rocket again, I don't know. I think he'll have some stretches, I think he'll win a race or 2 or 3, but I don't think he'll be a contender for the championship by any means.
I actually went with Ricky Weiss on this one, and a part of it was just because of the fact that he's out of the Bloomquist camp. Sound like it, from all reports indicate it was not a very amicable divorce. It seemed like it was pretty nasty.
It was not a mutual parting of ways.
It might have been a custody battle.
Yeah.
But I just see, Ricky, obviously the talent is not the issue with Ricky behind the wheel. He's shown every year he's gotten better as a driver. To me, it just come down to the car might be similar to the Bloomquist car. It is, but as that car goes through a season's worth of work and getting wrecked on Friday and needing to have it turned around by Saturday for another 10,000 to win feature with another, host of, national race car drivers on that level, I think it's too much of an unproven commodity to throw in there on the national tour. And he might come out there and prove me wrong, but I just think I think this year is going to be a learning year, and he's going to really start learning. It's one thing to learn, all right, this setup didn't work here, didn't work at these kind of tracks. It's one thing when you're doing that when you've got a chassis that has a notebook established. It's another thing when it's the first time this race car is seeing these kind of tracks, and what notepad do I have to fall back on because it's the first year that we're taking this design out here. So I just see it as kind of like it's the first time the guinea pig's been given the drug.
Yeah.
Guinea pig might have to die, and we'll figure out, okay, we need to switch the formula up.
Yeah.
In this day of mass vaccinations, unfortunately, not everybody takes the vaccine cleanly.
No.
So
just mask up.
Yeah. 2 masks.
That's right.
Speaking of doubling up,
yes.
World of Outlaws late model champion for 2021, Brandon Shepherd.
Yes.
I wish they'd get a little closer to him.
Yeah.
Because this is, next to Formula One, this seems to be the most decided title in all the 4 tours we talked about.
I think he wants that too. I mean, I think he wants that challenge, and I mean he proves that because he'll jump off on an Outlaw when they're off on that weekend. He's going to be racing either his own family B5 or sometimes they'll let the Rocket One come out and play. But he'll chase like a Lucas Oil race here or there, some Hail Tour races and stuff. He's a racer's racer, man. But I think he wants that push and that drive. And I think the last real challenge he had was when Mikey Marler won the championship a couple years ago. But when everybody kind of switched off on the tours and Clanton leaving and all that stuff, it's him and everyone else. Man, it's definitely on the pedestal there.
You combine a great driver with the best team in dirt racing, I mean, you're going to have a hard time knocking them off. B-Shep is tough, one tough nut to crack.
And Mark Richards, I mean, he's clearly said, we're willing to make those sacrifices and do what other teams just won't do. And he's one of those guys that they hate to lose more than they enjoy winning. And it's proven. Yep.
So now to the part of the show that you inducted last year, where at the tail end of the show we'll ask each other questions. Normally we go over things so that we're prepared, but I kind of like these little curveballs we throw at each other, but we don't have time we don't have time to research. You just got to go off your gut.
That's right.
So actually, I'm gonna throw you one first. I've only got two for you, so you got to answer both of these.
Okay, go ahead.
Now that the UMP Summer Nationals is 30 races over a 9-week period versus the old traditional 5-week period, so they've spaced it out. They got a big old gap in there. Is it still worthy in Buddy Payne's mind of being called the Hell Tour?
No, it is not. It is not, because the Hell Tour has that name for its reason. Obviously, it's in the middle of summer, so temperature, is part of the thing. But that is a hellacious tour to where you're running, give or take, 5 nights a week at different tracks. It's different than speed weeks where you're at the same place, the hauler ain't moving for a week. But you're unloading, running the race, packing it up, hitting, every single day with 1 or 2 off days in a week. So stretching it out that much, it might as well just be its own separate tour deal. I hate it. I don't like it. I understand they had to do it last year because of the restrictions and, certain tracks being open and closed and fans and no fans and all that stuff. So I get it last year, and I'll give them a pass for that. But to not go back to the original format, it's not the true Hell Tour to me anymore. The only thing I do like about it being this long, I guess, is the availability to hit some new tracks or some tracks that haven't run in forever. But no, it's not the Hell Tour in my opinion anymore.
I feel the same way. I don't feel right calling it the Hell Tour. It's the Summer Nationals now to me. So I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
My turn.
All right. So 1, 2, or 3, sir. I'll let you pick
I want to do all 3.
Okay.
Just give it to me in numerical order.
All right. Okay. So being topical here, Sunday we have a little football game going on down in Tampa, Florida. So in T-Bone's opinion, what is the true Super Bowl of racing? I will let you choose, or you can come of your own. So we have Monaco, Formula 1, Indy 500, Daytona 500, Chili Bowl, World 100, Knoxville Nationals, Dirt Track World Championship, Rolex 24, Le Mans 24. Or you can pick one of your own.
What other one can I pick?
All motorsports combined, what is the Super Bowl of racing?
That's tough because so many of them are the most prestigious event of their discipline, which the Super Bowl is. For me, it's almost a toss-up between Chili Bowl and Indy 500 just because it brings in more than just the discipline. The days are gone of guys like Mario Andretti crossing over from IndyCar to go run the Daytona 500 or A.J. Foyt or Al Unser Jr. Those days are gone. That's not coming back. Formula One, you really can't do it because there's only 20 seats. There's no real rent-a-rides out there where Michael Andretti could have gone over there and hopped in one or something. The World 100 obviously is, in my book, probably if not the definitive dirt late model race in the country. It brings in the most drivers. It's got the most prestige. Even though it doesn't pay the most money, it means the most to those guys. But it's only dirt late model guys. Kyle Larson's probably the only exception that would go run it from a sprint car. So I'd probably go Chili Bowl with Indy 500 a very close second. Chili Bowl, and it's amazing because Chili, all these new people that have come on Chili Bowl, and I'm glad to have them. It was not always like this. You go watch those old archives of Chili Bowl that are on Flow Racing. It was not always 300 freaking cars. Some years it was 40 or 50.
Right.
And they thought they were tickled to have that.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see what it is now, and you got the NASCAR guys, you got the open wheel guys, you got the USAC guys, you got the sprint car guys. It seems like everybody comes together for that. So to me, it's Chili Bowl, Indy 500 close second.
Okay, interesting choice.
What would you have gone with?
I'll go on Indy.
Okay.
I'll go on Indy.
That's fair.
Because you still see guys from other disciplines trying to get into that race. Mostly Formula One, but back in the day, you had like a lot of the USAC guys, just open wheel racers in general, trying to get into it. We've seen some NASCAR guys. Tony Stewart tried to do it in the Coke 600 in the same day. We've seen some of that. I think Jimmy Johnson's going to attempt it. So I think it pulls. It's one of those that pulls from multiple disciplines. But yeah, I agree with you. The Chili Bowl. it's amazing what it's grown to, and it's not slowing down. I mean, the Tulsa Shootout is, bigger than what the Chili Bowl used to be, and that's a little precursor there. But yeah, I'd say Indy's probably like all sports, all these Super Bowl of their each individual discipline, it's the top dog.
I will say Indy 500 has it beat on the pageantry and the build-up.
Oh, yeah.
The month of May,
right.
Carb Day, qualifying. To me, Indy 500 qualifying is the most dramatic qualifying in any kind of racing you will ever see. More dramatic than Chili Bowl because it's one. You only have that one chance, and you just cannot beat that view looking down the front stretch at Indy, and you got them on fans on both sides, and
three wide start.
There's no greater pageantry than Indy 500. So it beats Chili Bowl on that one.
I got you. Okay, I like it.
Now your second one. This has been popping up on message boards, and I think Michael Rigsby at Dirt on Dirt and Flow has brought this up as well. Every big dirt late model race, big dirt race we go to has a 4-wide salute. Are we doing it too much? Should the 4-wide salute be reserved for crown jewels, big paying events only, or should it stay as do it whenever you want?
I say 4-wide salutes should be reserved for national touring races only. And the reason I say that is because there's many race fans out there who will never have the opportunity to go to one of these crown jewel races, or they're supporting that regional track, and the Outlaws just happen to come in this year. Probably going to be the only time that they ever get to see them. Maybe they don't get to travel, whatever. So for those fans, that kid, maybe first time seeing something of this magnitude as far as quality of drivers and speed of the cars and all that, for those fans, when they come by, fireworks going off, take some cool pictures, post it on your social media, I think it's okay. Yes, I get sick and tired of it, but I've seen it more times than I can count. But I think for a national tour, now what irks me about it is when the support division is 4-wide saluting. Like, no offense to the modified guys out here, but the modifieds are running with sprint cars at Volusia, and they're 4-wide saluting and fireworking for modifieds. No offense, but you're a support division. When it's a regional tour race and there's 12, 15 cars out there, and you don't even have enough to make 3 or 4 rows deep. No, that's not happening. I think it's overplayed in that sense.
I could see that.
Yourself, what do you think?
I'm a little bit of both. I'd like it to be more restrictive, but I feel for that fan that can only afford to go to a few tracks in their region. They can't afford to go to an Eldora or a national touring series race. Like I think about fans down in eastern North Carolina that have County Line, Fayetteville, and Halifax, or the old Claries, and now that national tour, Lucas Oil and World of Outlaws aren't going to Fayetteville for the time being. If they can only go to those 3 racetracks, they won't see a national touring series. So it doesn't offend me, but I do appreciate the 4-wides at the bigger shows, like that 4-wide at Charlotte when it's all 3 divisions out there. That is just unreal and amazing. So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Give me another one.
All right. See which one we'll go with next. Okay, this one I'm drawing again off of Super Bowl, but also personal fandom for me. So Super Bowl Sunday, the Bucs are in it. I was a Bucs fan, but Tom Brady playing for the Bucs, I can't do it, man. I just can't watch it. It's just not my thing. I can't. I haven't watched maybe more than a half worth of football this year, and it's because the guy that you just dislike so much is now for your team. It's like, I just can't do it. So, and then kind of also drawing off of you with your recent baseball fiascos that you've had going on. So, with all that being said, what allocates a means for switching fandom, in your opinion, when it comes to racing? So, been a fan of this driver forever, but now I'm not going to, or this driver, I'm going to start pulling for him. Like, what allocates you as a true fan, not a bandwagoner, to make that switch?
Retirement.
Okay.
I thought about when you had to find someone new because Steve Kinzer retired, so you were already kind of a fan of Brian Brown, so you just kind of crossed that over. Retirement's one, or I do think that if somebody does something, nobody's perfect by any means, but if you see your driver or someone you're pulling for do something that you just absolutely do not agree with behaviorally or ethically or whatever, I think you're well entitled. You don't have to keep buying their T-shirt and keep supporting them just because you're like, well, I started with them, I got to keep. No, if they take a stance you don't like or whatever it is, or you see them go out there and on a pace lap go run somebody over and try to hurt them, and you're like, man, I don't really like that. That would be a fair switch. I don't like dropping off fanhoods just because guys switch chassis or motors, things like that. I can understand it, but I don't like it. Like I think are you pulling for the driver or are you pulling for a brand of race car? So, I mean, every time I've switched drivers, it's been retirements. Like Rusty Wallace was my favorite as a kid, and even when my uncle quit working for Penske, I was still a Rusty fan. Rusty retired, I had to find somebody else, and now I don't even watch NASCAR. My Formula One fanhood is based off what's the American team, Haas. All right, I'm going to support Haas, but I've gotten to the point now where so much of it, I'm not so much driver driven as much as I just want to see a good race. Yeah, I'm not in bed fan wise with anybody on the All-Star Circuit of Champions. But I want to watch. I want to turn it on flow, and I want to watch a good race. Yeah. Like I'm not, And if someone puts on a great show a couple times, I'm like, hey, I might buy your T-shirt. I have proven over our lifetime I will buy anybody's T-shirt,
except for Bloomquist. Only when you lose a bet.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. So that's a good one. Okay. You know what? I got one for you.
All right.
This is not even racing related, but because we're both Alamance County born and bred.
Yes.
Our minor league baseball team has recently gone from Burlington Indians to Burlington Royals. Now they are the Burlington Sock Puppets. That is the name of our baseball team in Burlington, North Carolina. So, Bud, I will put it to you. Is that the worst mascot you've ever heard of in your entire life?
Just off the top of my head, yes.
You can't think of nothing worse.
I'm sure if I thought long enough, I could maybe find something that was just like something like what Minnesota's the Golden Gophers, something, kind of dumb like that. But it would take some thinking for me to come up with something, and that says a whole lot about their choice. This is how bad that team name is, Tyler. I work with a guy, and he knows nothing about sports. I took him to one Burlington Royals game. We got free tickets for the small business thing, and I quizzed him going into it just to give him a little bit of a background of what baseball is, and he thought when you hit a double, that meant two-pointer. This is the kind of level we're working with, okay? And we were talking about it today at lunch, me and another guy, and he's like, sock puppets? I was like, yeah. It's like, I thought a mascot was supposed to be something cool or instill fear in your opponent. I was like, exactly. See, even he gets it.
I know that they were trying to tie it into history of this area, and they tried to tie it into textile history. I wish they'd have gone with the railroad history. Yeah, I think that would have lent itself to a cooler name because, for those of you who don't know, Burlington, North Carolina used to be called Company Shops, and part of the town's heritage was the fact that the railroad came through and it was a big deal. I wish they would have gone that route instead. I'll probably go to a game or two. I ain't gonna buy no merchandise, and I think it would have been different if it was there's some names that are different, but they're cool, like Montgomery Biscuits. Yeah. That's kind of cool. You go to the concession stand and get a biscuit. Right. Or the Las Vegas 51s. Yeah. Like it's something kind of cool.
The Casper Goose. That's my favorite one.
Or the Albuquerque Isotopes. I'm not turned on to sock puppets yet. You're going to have to give me time on that one.
Yeah, that one. I really thought when they had the suggestion box up on Facebook that they would have gone more the airport route because the airport used to be across the road from it over there. So a lot of people were putting up like bombers, put like some B-52s on there or something like that. But yeah, definitely did not see that one coming. So
all right, what's your third one?
All right, last one for you, sir. I don't know. I guess I was in a Super Bowl mindset when I was making up these questions. So, again, Super Bowl being Sunday, my team, I guess if you want to call it, that's in there. But honestly, I really don't care about it. And it hasn't been a driving force. I haven't watched probably more than a half's worth of football this year. And, NBA, the regional sports networks dropped off a streaming site, so I haven't watched a single Hornets game this year. And honestly, I haven't really missed it. I can catch a score on my phone kind of thing. So, say within the last 10, maybe 15 years, or you can go all the way back to childhood if you wish, how have your top 3, you can go top 5 if you'd like, sports changed from, back then to now?
Oh, drastically.
As far as what you followed then, what you follow now, or what was most important to you then versus what you follow now?
It's a drastic difference because now, because of where we live and we don't really get internet out of our house, we have to kind of hotspot and go off of the whatnot. I can't watch Carolina basketball, Carolina football, because all their games are on ESPN. I don't get ESPN, and I'm not paying for ESPN Plus, so that's hurt my Carolina Tar Heel fanhood. Don't get a regional sports network, can't watch the Hornets games, haven't paid much attention to the NBA in the last couple of years anyway. That's dropped off. The NFL, just lost interest. NASCAR I used to be diehard every Sunday because of things they've done. I've lost interest. So I have gone. It's funny because my hockey fanhood really started because of my dad. My dad would always have the hockey game on because Carolina had finally gotten a hockey team, and for a couple of years they were playing in Greensboro. So it was like, man, they're right down the road, and it's just carried over. And now that they're good, it doesn't hurt. So I like and hockey's a man's game. Mm-hmm. You got to be a man to play hockey. You ain't you ain't gonna be no. You might be a prima donna, but you might get your teeth knocked out too. Yeah. So I think as I've gotten older and maybe I've gotten more grumpy, I appreciate hockey more, the physicality of it. And now with so much access to racing, it's like I don't have to watch traditional stick and ball sports. There's so much racing out there. Yeah. I can catch a World of Outlaw highlight on YouTube or whatever. I'm planning on getting the MAV TV Plus thing so I can watch all that. I got the Flow Racing thing. There's something on there all the time. It's like, because now there's so much more out there, I think I used to feel restricted to certain things because it was what was available and we were in school and that's what everybody else liked. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm 32 going on 33, it's like, I want to watch what I want. I don't want to watch what everybody else is watching. Like, I want to watch something because I genuinely am entertained by it. Whereas I think before I watched NFL, NBA, all that stuff. And I'm still a baseball fan, but now I've had to switch to the Braves. But I just want to watch what I want.
Okay. Can you rank them, or you just have a general interest in?
Ooh, tough to. Now you question me. Probably Hurricanes. Hurricanes is the thing. Hurricanes hockey is the thing that if I'm watching it, I'm fist pumping and I'm grunting and I'm complaining and I'm fussing at the refs more passionately probably than I am anything else. So that racing probably a real close second. I'll go to more races than I will hockey games. It's cheaper to go. So racing it's probably a 1A 1B, and then I've really gotten into. I'm an off season into Braves fanhood, but I've kind of gotten into. They're doing some cool stuff with their podcasts and stuff, and with the MLB TV thing, it'd be easier to watch, and it helps that my wife's a Braves fan and my brother-in-law on her side's a Braves fan, so I'll have some other Braves fans to bounce off of at Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's probably in there at 3, but. Carolina Hurricanes hockey and racing on Flow and MAV, that's my 1A, 1B.
All right. I like it.
What about you? I think you've done a pretty dramatic turnaround.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's been a big change for me. Growing up, all we had was antenna, so all I learned about sports was in the newspaper the next morning, and I learned how to read the box scores and all this stuff, and I was well versed before I got to school and ready to talk about whatever happened. But what games I could catch, NBA on NBC on Saturdays, Fox Saturday Baseball, and of course, football on Sundays. And the Hornets back then, they played on, UPN and, some of the smaller channels. So, I was big into stick and ball sports and NASCAR. Obviously, we bled black threes with a good wrench on them at the house. But now, like I said, as you got older, you have access to more. And I think really what's impacted me the most is seeing the ins and outs of what goes on with these sports. Listening to sports talk radio, certain folks in sports talk radio, I'll say, and just seeing like how controlled they are with, the politics stuff and betting and gambling and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, oh man, they're puppets on some strings in certain situations. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but like motorsports is a clear number one for me, and it has been. And I'll just say motorsports in general, because like you said, we have the access and we can watch a midget race, a drag race, a dirt race, a open wheel race, whatever, pretty much any given night. So having that access to it, man, I'll watch just about anything when it comes to that, and go to just about anything when it comes to that. But baseball will always be, probably my favorite ball and stick sport. Played it a little bit growing up, but I love it. I love that just pastime. Go sit down for 3 hours in the sun and enjoy a baseball game. I really don't care who's playing. Obviously, I'm a Cubs fan, but I love going to minor league games, as you know, and that's just the most probably calming sport, I guess, and enjoyable on that sense. And then the crazy one for me is hockey, because I used to pick. I had a good friend who's a hockey nut, the way I am a motorsports nut, and I used to pick on him, say, they're glorified figure skaters and all this kind of stuff. And then I went to the game, and holy cow, just the speed,
perspective change.
Oh my goodness, just the speed, the atmosphere. I mean, the most crazy sports atmosphere I've ever been in has been a playoff hockey game. Just a couple years ago, it was ridiculous, man. My ears are still ringing, I think, from that. So that's one, like, I really don't want to miss a game. Baseball, 162 games, we miss a couple, whatever. But hockey is just amazing. I'll slot that in at 3. Really, the professional sports outside of baseball, I've kind of fallen off of. I still enjoy following Carolina basketball more so. I like college basketball a little more than anything else. And then 5th, I'm just going to slide in MMA as a whole. Like the UFC stuff, the pay-per-views and all are cool. I ain't dropping 60 bones to watch, dudes fight, but, all the free access that we have now to it, I love watching that, just the true, sport discipline against discipline. I really enjoy that. So, yeah, I mean, the professional stuff's really kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah. I think one of the things with racing that I can also tie in with the hockey thing is, with hockey, you don't get, it's not like football where there's a 2-second play and then we're back in the huddle. Baseball kind of in that same vein, whereas with hockey, they'll go long periods of time and the game is constantly improv. And I think racing, when you see some of these dirt races, not that they're very long, but you get a 20, 30 lap green flag run, you see like, all right, we're not stopping anytime soon. If what you're doing's not working, you better fix it on the fly. You're not getting a timeout.
Right.
We're not going to huddle up with coach to give us a new play. Like, go figure it out.
Yeah.
I kind of see that. But it is funny how that works.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't have never pegged us as hockey fans when we met when we were kids. But now it's like, it's funny how that works. And then, like you said, with so much access to so much racing, I mean, we're sitting here watching UMP modifieds on the big screen, whereas in years past, it would have been, if you weren't there in person,
you're waiting
for
you're waiting for the
magazine.
Yeah, you're waiting for
Speed
Sport to come out a month later to figure out who won. Yeah.
So it's like, with so much more access to it, it's like, yeah, I'll enjoy that. Yeah, and they're doing a 4-wide salute, and Buddy's giving a thumbs down.
Unacceptable.
You know what? It kind of takes me back to, I forget which episode you said this on, or maybe you just said it in conversation, where you said you're going to pay to be entertained no matter what you want to watch. If you want to watch football, you want to watch basketball, if you're whatever you're a nut of, concerts, music, whatever, you're going to pay to be entertained. Now you can be way more selective than you used to could be. We used to all have Spectrum, cable, Time Warner Cable, Dish Network, DirecTV. You had to have that.
Yeah.
Streaming has blown it out. And now You don't need that stuff no more. Now you can just sit there and pick and choose what you want to watch.
And now these same channels that were on these packages for so long, now they're branching off doing their own thing. The ESPN Plus and the Discovery has their own, and I think Paramount's coming out with their own, Disney. So you don't have that need for any of that stuff, and so if majority of what I watch is on this channel, I can just buy this for the $8-10 a month it is, and that's fine. I don't need the rest of this stuff. The racing stuff, my goodness. Like we've talked about time and time again, there's enough out there to where you can literally watch a race every night of the week.
And now that YouTube's as big as it is, we can just go there and watch highlights.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch SportsCenter no more like it used to be.
Yeah.
I used to live for SportsCenter.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I watched SportsCenter.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Watch the highlights.
Yeah, and then we all have it on our phone where that highlight or that box score pops up immediately. So
I will say to wrap up, I am so thankful for smartphones. Because my wife does not always, this is going to be a shocker, my wife does not always want me to have the race on the TV.
What?
Sometimes she prefers.
And you still married her?
I know. I'm 4 years going on 5. Sometimes she prefers to watch things on the Disney Plus app. So thank God for this big old smartphone in my hand. I can sit there and have this booger in my left hand. I'm kind of watching what she's watching, but I can still on my phone have Flow pulled up. Oh, yeah, honey. And she'll, like, quiz me, and I'm kind of paying attention, but I'm also like, oh, man, 3 wide for the lead. So thank God for a smartphone.
All right, last question then.
Yes.
With the smartphone, how many screens have you had going at one time with races?
3.
Okay.
I've only done 3. I've done the smartphone on one, the TV on another, and the laptop on another.
Okay.
But I've seen some setups where these dudes have got like 5 TVs.
And a wall of
like,
TVs going.
Bro, my wife won't let me spend that much money.
Yeah.
Like I've got Flow, I got Pit Road TV for asphalt stuff, and I'm going to get MLB TV for the Braves. I don't make enough money to also get Dirt Vision and
Mav and
cheap racing.
Right.
I ain't got that much. If I had the money, I would spend it on it. How many of you? What's your record?
My record's 4. I've had 4 screens going at one time.
And they wonder why our level of attention span has gone down in this generation.
It's whichever one had green flag action going on at the time. I had 4 going on at one time. I mean, like stuff sitting in the floor, plugged in through the PlayStation on the TV, the phone going. I asked to borrow Heather's phone. She said no, but I would have had 5. But now 4 is the most I've ever done.
You know what? I think, honestly, if we'd have had this kind of access to dirt racing and local racing on streaming apps, that if we'd have had back then what we had now, even just back in the 90s, I think me and my grandpas would have been watching dirt races more than we'd have been watching NASCAR.
Yeah.
I think the main reason we stayed on NASCAR as long as we did because it was the only thing that was readily available. This stuff, the streaming thing, just wasn't there yet. But I really feel like we'd have been watching, that instead of watching NASCAR. But NASCAR was just what was available.
I know for sure my dad and I would have, the only real sports bond he and I have is racing, and diehard Earnhardt guys, and after 2001, that's really when we shifted and started going traveling more and going to dirt races more often, and and just that Sunday tradition just slowly faded away. And same thing. I mean, look at us now. We're hitting up big races and traveling all the time now, and I love it. It's how we bond and everything. But yeah, I agree with you. If any of this was not, well, again, it is my dad. I don't know if he would have paid for it or not. He'd have
been like, "Is it free? Is it like that Mav TV thing where they're on Facebook for free?" They want me to pay what?
I was texting the other night about Volusia. He said, "I can't find it on my phone." I said, "Dad's got to have a subscription for that one. That one's not free."
Well, if it ain't free, I ain't gonna watch it.
That's right.
Oh, man. Well, buddy, pleasure as always, my friend.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Be sure to find us on Facebook by searching for the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Give us a like, leave us some comments if you will, share some of our postings and whatnot. If you see something you like, that would really help us get the word out a ton. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to the Half Price Concessions Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pocket Casts, whatever app you're using to listen to our show, YouTube as well. Whichever way you're listening, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way, not only will you automatically see when we put out new material, but it also helps us out a whole lot more than you could ever know. Special thanks to our partners at North Carolina 811 DIG, the Performance Center Racing Warehouse. We've got some new partners coming in as well. So stay tuned. A lot more good stuff to come, but we really appreciate you listening to the Half Price Concessions podcast. My name is Tyler Williams, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.